Hi everyone, welcome to my first ever video. After a suggestion and a lot of encouragement by a certain two people, you know who you are, Sarah and Denny. In the run up to the release of the second book in the Andromeda Newton series, Courting Trouble, I will be making a couple of videos reading segments from the books. As this is the first one, it only makes sense to start with Magickal Beginnings, the first book in the series. But rather than give you the first chapter, I'm going to read you a scene from further on in the book, a little magical action and adventure for you. So feel free to pause if you want to go grab a cuppa or just watch it, whichever you prefer. Even skip it altogether. All I ask is that when I'm done, if you like what you heard, go ahead and have a look on Amazon. The link is below, read the blurb, and if you think you'd enjoy it, give it a go. If not, thanks anyway for watching this far. As this is my first time, I'm going to go straight in, no editing, so bear with me. Okay, enough from me. I'm handing you over to Andy. Chapter 12. There is no simple way to look for a magical creature in a reference book. No matter what they say, this fae has green eyes and red hair, for example, there are always exceptions. I had to read through the descriptions of every creature in the book, not just looks, but what they were capable of too. And let me tell you, there are hundreds. I was seated in the dimly lit back room of my shop. I kept an armchair back here for clients if they wanted to speak privately. Homely touches tended to put them at ease. And I was curled up in it, the Encyclopedia Arcana on my lap. I was on my third can of Coke-free Coke, that's caffeine-free Diet Coke, and yes, I really do like the taste. And a headache was starting to build across the bridge of my nose. I was only about halfway through the book and decided to stop and stretch my legs. I was stiff from sitting in one position for so long and arched my back, arms above my head, stretching out stiff joints and muscles, when I heard a knock from the shop front, as though someone wanted to come in. I poked my head through the beaded curtains separating the shop front from the back room. I could just make out a figure cloaked in the darkness outside the door. "We're closed," I called, but the figure rattled the door again, as though shaking the handle. I found myself frowning and realised that he or she weren't just shaking the door, but they were trying to break through my wards. If the wards went down, the door wouldn't even be a small obstacle. For the first time I thought something might break through my protection, even though I knew they were good, really good. That brought the sharp taste of fear to my throat alone. These wards were meant to keep out even the most determined of magic users, but whoever this was stronger than I'd estimated any burglar to be. But I had a feeling that this wasn't just a burglar, and I always listened to my feelings. I wouldn't have time to call the cops. By the time they got here, whoever or whatever would be inside. They knew I was here and were still determined to get in, which meant I was in very real danger. I sent to Alex, hoping we weren't too far apart, getting across as simply as I could that I was at the shop and needed help. Then I ran to as near the centre of the outer room as a circle of power around me. Unless I had grossly underestimated this thing, it shouldn't be able to cross the circle. I called it large enough to cover most of my stock. The shelves on either side of the door were left out, but I couldn't risk including this thing in my circle, and I could always make more charms. The thing continued to push at the wards, and I knew it was only a matter of moments before whatever it was came through. I hoped Alex got my message and had law enforcement on the way. I staggered back as my wards gave way, shattering the glass in the door and windows, exploding them inwards with the force. I shielded my face with my arms instinctively and inhaled sharply as shards of glass bit into my flesh. There was a surge of magic pushing against me as the thing approached through the shattered door, and in the half-light shining from the back room, I could see the thing more clearly. It was covered from head to toe in a heavy black cloak. The hood that encompassed where the humanoid's face would be was filled with an unnatural darkness that made your eyes hurt if you looked at it too long, and though it was human in shape, its magic was anything but. Whatever this thing was, human didn't even begin to cover it, and I brought a spell to mind that would stop it in a permanent way, if it came to it. Better prepared than sorry. It stood at the edge of my circle and emitted a low growl that brought every hair on my body to attention, and I hoped Alex hadn't taken my cry for help as a sign I wanted him here. Someone like Alex would be nothing but an appetizer for something this scary. I felt this creature of darkness picking at my circle magically, trying to find a gap, anything to let it get to me. I sent more power into the circle, but this only seemed to enrage it more. My pulse sped up as it gave up the subtle approach, throwing its power at the circle hard and fast. To any mundane passer-by by the scene, it would have looked strangely quiet. The creature and I stood off against one another, staring hard, but the real battle was happening on another plane. I felt perspiration trickle down my spine in a cold line. My muscles started to shake with the effort of maintaining the circle against such an attack. Mental exertion is always harder on the body than the name implies. Fear gripped me as I felt a small tear appear in my circle, and I fought to repair it, but that one moment was all the creature needed. It charged at me, and I recalled my power, backing away as fast as I could and putting the power into the spell I had prepared. I was vaguely aware of sirens in the distance and other noises from the street outside. Guess someone had called the cops after all. There was no way I could incapacitate this thing, its magic being of a kind I had never before experienced, but also of a kind that I knew would not lay down unless it was in a permanent way. The spell that I had thought of should solve that, provided I could get it out before this thing got to me. The spell formed in my mind like wet clay, taking form as my magic shapes it into what I needed to survive as the creature raised its hand in a sweeping gesture. I felt cuts tear open my face, blood running in hot lines to drip off my chin as my skin stung, and I realised it was going to try and distract me from my spell by using physical pain. That was okay. I could take a little pain. Hell, I could take a lot of pain. I knew that from previous experience. It would take more than a few cuts to stop my concentration when my life depended on it. The spell completed in my mind and was baying to be released, while sharp pains started in my arms and legs simultaneously as the creature lashed out at the air again. I threw my arms out at it, releasing the spell before I lost to the pain, and it hit the thing square in the chest as it slashed at me once more. I released all that remaining power at once in a wave, throwing the creature out of the shop and taking the entire shop front with it. The silence was suddenly deafening, the only sound that of my own heavy breathing. I couldn't sense that thing anymore. It seemed to have gone, either destroyed or back to where it had come from, and relief washed over me. I hurt all over from the wounds it had inflicted and the effort of using so much power at once, and I risked a glance down at myself. I looked as though claws had shredded my pants in several lines down the front, and blood flowed slowly but surely, seeping into and through the cloth. My arms had been bare, and blood ran down my fingertips to drip into little crimson spots on the floor that grew larger by the second. 3 deep gouges ran from my upper arms almost to my wrists, and stung even more as I looked at them. What worried me most was the slash mark down the front of my top, almost from the right side of my collarbone to the left side of my belly button. My shirt was soaked in blood, and I could feel my energy seeping away with it. Adrenaline had kept me upright so far, and I hoped it kept me upright long enough to get an ambulance here. I took a step towards the counter and stumbled, my legs feeling weaker for every inch I tried to move. I could hear sirens getting louder as I pulled the phone towards me over the counter by the wire. I couldn't have made it around the counter if I tried, and although the chances were good that the sirens I could hear were on their way, I still wanted to log a call, just to make sure help was coming. I fell heavily to my knees as the last of my energy started to peter out, and the phone came with me, the handset landing just beyond my reach. I strained to reach it, which was more difficult than I could ever have imagined, and all I accomplished was to part lie down, curled over my knees, arm outstretched, my fingers brushing the emergency button, but still not depressing it. My vision started to tunnel, and I turned my head towards the door as I heard someone outside shout my name. A pair of men's shoes came hurriedly into view, and it was then that the darkness took me. Well, that was chapter 12 of Magical Beginnings. I will soon be putting up the reading part of the first chapter of Courting Trouble, so you've got that to watch out for. And I have another little surprise later this week, so keep your eyes peeled for that too. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it and that I didn't make too many errors. Bye for now.